Yes. Oh, yeah. Again, we have to deal with this teaching that the pastors and preachers and so-called prophets are not teaching, because they are scared that if they start to teach the way the New Testament is crafted and written, not really going outside of it, but even reading it itself, they will come to a very shattering and very shocking conclusion. And many who pay tithes and sustain their luxurious life will start to look for spiritual, new spiritual gardens, and they will never again follow them. So we ignore that, and we just want to give the pure teaching that is in these Greek scriptures, because we know that the Greeks never produced any philosophers, never originated any knowledge. They copied it from some other place. And we want to prove that, and we are going to do that shortly. Give some of the evidence really shortly. So, first and foremost, we want to look at the issue of the law. We are going for the moment just to put the confusionist and the spouter of lying Paul. We are going to put him a little bit aside, and we will deal with him in later installments. But for now, we want to deal with what other chapters in the New Testament teach about the law. And our title is Are You Saved? You meet a lot of Christians, some giving you pamphlets, some talking to you, some preaching on the street corners, claiming that you must be saved. There is nothing like that. You have to ask him, saved from what? That's the question that you have to ask. Saved from what? And the definite answer to that is saved from the consequences of sin. And the logic from that answer would be to ask, what is sin then? And then when we know what is sin, we will be able then to extricate ourselves and redeem ourselves from the consequences of sin. And so when you go to the New Testament in the first book of John, 1 John chapter 2, verse 4, you will find that it defines a person who is a liar. It says, he who says, I know him, speaking of Jesus, who they call the Christ, but disobeyed his commandments, is a liar. So which commandments did Jesus propose, or did Jesus stand for? He stood for the Torah, the commandments that are in the Torah, commandments of cleanliness of women who are having their monthly times, purity of males who should be circumcised, the keeping of times like the keeping of the Sabbath, the keeping of the festivals, paying tithes not to a church, but paying tithes to a temple. Those are the commandments. So if you don't do that, and if your zeal is not in that, then you are likely to be a candidate of a group of people that are called a liar. And this same book actually explains and tells us what is sin. It says, everyone who commits sin is guilty of lawlessness. So what is sin? It goes on to say, sin is lawlessness. So when you go to Matthew chapter 7, you find that there are many people that are calling Lord, Lord, and worshiping this phantom, this creation that is called Jesus. But they don't keep the law. And Jesus said, on the day of judgment, he will cast those people away because they were lawless. They didn't keep the Torah. They had a negotiation and then a contract not to keep the Torah. Well, we will deal with everything then that has to do with the law. So when we look at this creation that is called Jesus, we say that his teachings came from some place. He did not originate his teachings. And when it comes to this issue of being saved, when a Christian asks you, are you saved? And then you ask him, saved from what? And then they have to say, are saved from the consequences of sin. Then you will have to prove to them and to point to them that the sin has something to do with the commandments, which their Jesus said the commandments will always be there to be obeyed until the earth is passed away. So the law is in charge. God has given and mandated the law or the Torah to rule the universe until the earth has passed away. That is in Matthew chapter 5. Now, when you speak about being saved, it is also connected with Janao. And the Genao is a term that has now been popularized as being born again. When you look in the Greek and you start the Greek, it's also being born from above. That's another script. That's another understanding. So when you go to John chapter 3, when Nicodemus, one of the greatest rabbis, then went to Jesus and asked him about his teaching, he spoke about being born again. And then he said this, which has confused billions and billions of Christians. He said, uh, he said, you must be born again. That is his commandment. He said, that which is born of the flesh is flesh, and that which is born of the spirit is the spirit. So there are two entities here. That which is born of the flesh is flesh. I am flesh as I am. I'm not a spirit. But inside me, when you read Genesis chapter 2, verse 7, there is the consciousness of reality, the consciousness that gives me the ability to connect with the spiritual realm, the ability. Anyone who can imagine, close their eyes and see pictures, close their eyes and realize and see other thoughts, they are connected to the spirit, or they are connected to another frequency of energy higher than the physical energy. So they don't only necessarily have to believe in the things they touch, the things they see, the things they smell, the things they feel, but they have to believe in something. But for you to transcend and rise up to use that spirit, you have to do something called serpentine connection. And this was done by Moses in the desert. And Jesus said that is what must be done to you, to your consciousness. So if you continue to read that, you find that if you are actually truly born of the Spirit, you will be a spirit. But as long as you are not a spirit, you have not been saved, you have not been born again, you have just repented, you have just changed your way of thinking, and you are desiring to have serpentine connection. And Jesus said, in the same scripts, that in John chapter 3, verse 13, continuing with the theme of being born again, which is the theme of being saved. He said, no one has ascended into heaven, but he who descended from heaven, the Son of Man. And as he did not say the Son of God, he said the Son of Man, which means he was born by the Spirit from heaven, which means he has the breath of life. He was conscious. Everyone is a descendant, his soul descended into flesh. That's what he is teaching. Then he says, and as Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness, so must the Son of Man be lifted up, that whoever believes in him may have eternal life. So this is where the tricks have been played. So when he says Moses raised a serpent, you look at that serpent, it is called the caduceus. When you look and say today where it is used in healing, it is used in sustaining and giving life. Where did that come from? Who started with that serpent? How did Moses know that if you lift this serpent in the wilderness, it will give healing? Which other group of people, black people, started to use that? So when you look at that serpent that Moses raised was the serpent called Set. It was the brother of another Neteru, another principle called Osoro, Okumsoro, or Osiris. And we are now dealing with the actual teachings that are there and hidden and codified in the New Testament. Where did these authors of the New Testament get this information from? It is quite easy. They got it from ancient Egypt. So, therefore, if you ignore ancient Egypt in your Christianity or in your spirituality, you are just you have ignored your foundation. Because Jesus said, a house that is built on sand it will fall when the flood comes. But that which is built on rocks, he was referring to the pyramids. It was referring to pyramidological knowledge. That is what he was saying. And now, this is what Jesus did actually learn in Egypt. And therefore, when they ask you, are you being saved? They are asking you, have your serpentine powers, your powers inside you, have they been awakened? Have they been raised up to connect to other frequencies? That is what is called being born again, to rise up back, to rise up from being flesh into being spirit. Thank you very much.